Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a review on the award-winning movie Slumdog Millionaire by Danny Boyle. So I got recommended this movie by several people, and after watching it, I have to say I can see why. The movie is about a poor teen named Jamal who becomes a contestant on the famous game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire after living a very tough life in the slums of India with his brother Salim and Latika, a girl he meets along the way. And so the first thing that I really liked about this movie was the way that the game show was tied to Jamal's history and his experience with living in the slums all his life. Each question acted as a sort of trigger for a memory that Jamal had growing up, and through this we kind of got a sort of glimpse into what true poverty in India is like. The movie also portrays the injustice there was for poor people at the time, and still is today, and how others discriminate against them just because of their poverty. Especially for Jamal in the movie, since after answering every question correct and being one question away from winning 20 million rupees, he's interrogated under suspicion of cheating. Even though it's unfortunate that this happens to him, it is ultimately this that makes the movie flow so well, as it is in a sort of Q&A format, switching between the interrogation and Jamal's memories. Another thing I really enjoyed about the movie was the dynamic between the three characters Jamal, Salim, and Latika, who loosely resemble the three musketeers from the famous novel of the same name by Alexandre Dumas. I liked how different each of them were in terms of their personalities and roles in life. They each had their own destiny and made certain decisions to get to that point. They also each had very distinct weaknesses that affected the decisions they made throughout the movie. For Jamal, he was weakened by lust. In the film, he gets into trouble several times because of Latika, the girl he loves and tries to save no matter what. For Latika, she faces a lot of issues because she is not strong enough to stand up for herself. Throughout the entire movie, she was always being controlled by a higher up, and when given an opportunity to escape, she always backed down. However, although this was her weakness, she did ultimately overcome it because of her love for Jamal, which motivated her to escape and to go see him at the end of the film. And lastly, there was Salim. I think he is definitely the most complex character out of the three just because he is a good person, but also not. He helps out Jamal and Latika several times throughout the movie, but also acts as a villain at certain points. This stems from his craving for money and power. Although he gives into these things and pursues a life of corruption and violence, he still does help Latika escape at the end of the movie and accepts his demise, burying himself in a bathtub of money and waiting for his impending death. I think this is one of the most powerful scenes in the film, especially because of the symbolism of the bathtub full of money and because it's such an intense scene that is full of action. While Salim buries himself with money, we are also witnessing Latika running, trying to get to her love Jamal. This was definitely one of the most nerve-wracking moments in the movie, and is what makes this scene one of my favorites overall. I also want to talk about the sound mixing of this movie, especially during the scene where Jamal's mother dies after the invasion of the Hindu nationalists who are trying to take down the Muslims. Fun fact, this is a reference to the actual Bombay riots in Mumbai which happened in 1993. So the scene starts off very subtle and quiet with everything seeming pretty normal. Jamal and Salim are with their mother as she cleans clothes in some water. You can hear splashing as Jamal and Salim play around together. But then, after a couple of seconds, you can start to hear tension in the background track, as it starts building up its suspense. Then, moments later, after a train passes in the background, you suddenly see it, a giant mob coming with pitchforks and weapons. Next thing you know, all you can hear is muffled screaming, which is very fitting as it emulates the feeling of confusion and shock when first seeing the people running towards the camera. It usually takes people a couple of seconds to realize what's happening, which I think the audio depicts very clearly. Jamal and Salim are in shock, and so they don't know what's happening. At least not until their mother gets knocked out and killed by one of the nationalists, which sparks adrenaline into Jamal and Salim enough so that they are able to escape. Then, while they are running away, the once muffled screaming becomes very clear and loud, showing the true chaos that is happening right before their very eyes. In general, I feel as if the audio was very well thought out and carefully timed with this scene in particular, so that the audience could almost put themselves in the shoes of Jamal and Salim and feel their emotional burden that they had to face with the death of their mother. And this is yet another of the reasons that I really appreciate this movie. On top of this, the cinematography of this movie was also absolutely stunning, showing the slums in India and emphasizing the hardships that people living there have to go through even today. For cinematography in general, I would have to say that the train scene was my favorite, just because there were really great shots of the surrounding landscapes that the train passed through and also because of the high and low angles they used to show Jamal and Salim on top of the train. This scene, among many others, was also color graded very beautifully, so props for that as well. Overall, I think it was an amazing movie and one that definitely deserved the recognition that it got. And it is for this reason that I give it a solid 9 out of 10. If you haven't seen this movie already, I would definitely recommend you go watch it. It's great. Anyways, that wraps it up for this video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.